Hello, I'm Donna Bauer, the original note buyer. Thanks for joining me. Today I want to talk to you about the difference between seller carryback notes compared to non-performing bank notes. Before I get started though, if you haven't already, I invite you to stop by my website at thenotebuyer.com. And when you're there, be sure to join my list so that you can get notification of upcoming events as well as my future blog posts. One of the questions that people often ask me is, where should I start? Should I do the non-performing notes or should I do the seller carrybacks? And my answer is, it depends. Now, I'm sure you're kind of sick of me always answering with it depends, but it depends. What can I say? And it depends largely on what your personal goals are. With the non-performing notes, you can typically make much larger profits. However, they take a lot more time. And when I say more time, it's more calendar time as well as more hands-on, put the deal together time, if you know what I mean. So typically with a non-performing note, it's not unusual. It might take a year just to put the deal together. And then it could take several years to actually do a workout or set up a new payment plan and be paid off. Of course, you could also buy a non-performing note and flip it and be done in 30 days. So it really depends on, there it is again, it depends. It depends on the type of note, the circumstances, and what you're able to accomplish with it. The thing is that there is a much greater risk with the non-performing notes. And the risk is primarily because there are so many different exit strategies. You might have a game plan to do one type of note or one strategy, and once you buy the note, find out that you can't do that at all. For example, you might decide that your plan is to buy non-performing notes, negotiate a forbearance and a modification agreement with the homeowner and keep them in the house, and then sit back and collect payments. But what are you going to do if you buy the note and then you find out that the homeowner is long gone and you can't even find him to negotiate a deed in lieu, let alone to do some kind of a workout and keep them in the house? So now you're going to be dealing with a vacant property. And as long as you're prepared for that, that's great. I mean, that might even be a better deal. You would have to foreclose to get the property, or unless you can find them to get the deed in lieu. But you might want the property. You might make more money by getting the property and turning around and selling it. Shoot, you could sell it and carry back your own note. And then you could sit back and collect payments on the note, or you could sell the note for cash. I mean, there's just all kinds of different strategies and different exit strategies in particular. And so with the non-performing notes, you need to be able to go with the flow. And the other thing is there's a greater risk because with the non-performing notes, there's a much greater chance that you're going to need money out of your pocket. You might plan on doing one thing, but if you wind up holding the note, there could be additional holding costs like taxes, upkeep. You know, if it's snowing, do you have to shovel the walks? Do you need to mow the grass? Are there building orders? I mean, different things can come up, and you need to be prepared financially as well as physically to deal with those type of things. So there generally is a greater risk with the non-performing notes. And of course, that's why you get larger profits with them. You know, the risk and needs to match, or the reward needs to match the risk. So normally I tell people if they are just starting out with notes, and particularly if they are just starting out in real estate altogether, I would really start with the seller carrybacks. You can still make very nice profits with seller carryback notes. I have one student who it was one of his first deals. I think it was his second deal. He made $396,000 profit. That was profit on his deal. Can you imagine that? What a way to start your business. Wouldn't that change your life a little bit? And let me tell you, the secret is the larger the note, the larger the profit. And he happened to be working a $2 million commercial note. And so he flipped that note, and that's where he made almost $400,000. But typically, you're not going to be dealing, you can, but typically the sweet spot for the seller carrybacks are more the blue collar neighborhoods, the rental properties. There are just so many more of those type of notes, and you can still make great profits. Not 396,000, but you can easily make $10,000-$20,000 and only have maybe 20 hours of work in it. If you want to call work shuffling some papers, putting together a contract, going to the title company, or handling it all over by overnight mail, you don't physically have to go to the title company. But with the seller carrybacks, when I talk about time invested, it's not like with the non-performing notes where you have to do the rehabs or you may have to do rehabs and that kind of thing. So with the seller carrybacks, I would figure it's probably going to take 15 to 20 hours per deal. And when you look at it like that, you're going to wind up getting a very, very nice hourly increase. I can promise you with the seller carrybacks. And with the seller carrybacks, they really can be virtually risk-free. And the reason for that is if you follow the strategies that I outline in my Note Buyer's Master Guide, I teach you how to buy a note, but you're not going to buy the note until you've already got it sold. So you don't have to worry that you're going to buy a note and get stuck with it, and your money's going to be invested, and how are you going to pull your money back out of it? You don't have to deal with that because you just follow my strategy, and you're going to be flipping seller carryback notes, and you won't have your money tied up in it. And so for that reason, it can be virtually risk-free. It really amazes me when I talk to people and they say, hey, Donna, I intend to get into notes, but as soon as I get some real estate deals done, and once I learn about real estate, then, I'm going to start doing some seller carrybacks. And I think, well, that would be a good plan if you're doing the non-performing notes, but do you realize that the seller carrybacks are much, much easier to deal with than flipping houses, okay? So if you're looking for a relatively fast, easy, safe way to make money, I would recommend that you start with the seller carrybacks. Now, I also should mention that the seller carrybacks are the privately held mortgages. So typically you're going to be dealing with a mom and pop who probably lived in the property at one time, they sold it, and they carried back a mortgage. Whereas if you're dealing with the non-performing notes, you're normally dealing with banks or hedge funds. Now, sometimes nowadays, you will come across banks that will sell their performing notes. Used to be they never sold their performing notes to private investors. But nowadays, I do see some performing notes coming across my desk. However, when the banks or hedge funds sell those performing notes, they are generally going to be selling those in a pool. And if you have never done notes before, I sure don't recommend that you start by buying a pool of notes. That's another thing that really shocks me. I can't believe the number of people that I talk to, and they're going to go buy a pool of 50 notes, of 50 non-performing notes. And they've never done one note deal, not one note deal. And I think, my goodness, really? To me, that's a little bit reckless, to say the least. I really recommend that if you are new to the business, that you start with the seller carrybacks. Get a couple of those under your belt. Have an understanding of how the discounting process works. Get familiar with the paperwork, and then maybe migrate over to the non-performing notes. And then, quite frankly, you're probably going to wind up doing both, because once you get into the marketplace, you're going to come across both of them. Shoot, you may even be creating some of your own notes. If you're dealing with the non-performers, like I said, you might wind up with the property, create a note, and whether you want to sit back and collect payments, or you might want to flip it to another investor so you can cash out. There are just many strategies that you can employ in your note business. But by far, the easiest, the fastest, easiest, safest way to make money with notes is to simply flip a seller carryback note. So depending on what your personal goals are and what your situation is, how much time you have, how much money you have available, how much experience you have, that would determine whether you want to start with non-performing or the seller carrybacks. And keep in mind, it's the seller carrybacks. If you are wanting to get started with none of your own cash, then by all means, you want to start with the seller carryback notes. I hope this has been helpful to you. And once again, I invite you to stop by my website at thenotebuyer.com and make sure you join our list so that you can get notices of upcoming blog posts. Thanks very much and happy investing.